What's the weirdest, most unusual thing you've ever witnessed in public? I go to UC Berkeley where there are a lot of crazies, homeless, hippies, you name it, on campus. There is this doobie cool ex-guy. No idea if he is homeless. He is definitely mentally ill. His clothes are covered top to bottom in X's. He just stands under Southgate for like 10 hours with his hands in the air saying boom in a sing-song way every day. You can even go up to him and join in and he loves it. But he never says anything other than boom. Ex-guy on our Berkeley. Was waiting for my bus home from school one day a few years ago, and there's a few kids that may be between the ages of 10-11. Also waiting for a bus. It was quiet, so I didn't think much of it, since they weren't talking, until they all started screaming in unison at the top of their lungs, like a feral horror-like scream. And they all simultaneously stopped screaming after about 2 minutes of consecutive screams. They just acted like nothing had happened and went back to their mutual silence. I was walking my dog one sunny afternoon through a large public park in my city. There was a group of rather heavy-set women dressed in BDSM gear who had set up an apparatus in the middle of the park and were taking turns fastening themselves to it and flogging each other. The funny thing is they were seemingly getting annoyed by those who were taking pictures of them on their camera phones. I mean, if you're going to do this in public, you're kinda giving up your right to privacy. I was at my elementary school in California where I used to live. There was a big area built off for water, but it was during the drought, so there was almost no water in it. We had a bridge going from one side to the other. While crossing it, I see a guy in a fancy red car speeding down the side of the tiny stream at like 70 or something. The school didn't even care. We just kept doing what we do. I'd be more concerned if it's that easy for someone to get down there. I was stopped at a red light, and there was a lady in the car next to me. She was having really sporadic head movements. Not the head bob dancing type, but just kinda crazy. After like 10-15 seconds of this, her neck went limp and her head just hung forward. Ned green, and I hesitated a moment wondering if she needed medical care and was about to pull in front of her to check on her, when her head abruptly jerked back up and she drove off without hesitation. I was stopped at a red light, and there was a lady in the car next to me. She was having really sporadic head movements. Not the head bob dancing type, but just kinda crazy. After like 10-15 seconds of this, her neck went limp and her head just hung forward. Ned green, and I hesitated a moment wondering if she needed medical care and was about to pull in front of her to check on her, when her head abruptly jerked back up and she drove off without hesitation. I used to work at Walmart as a janitor. I got called to the front of the store, and I got to watch as some lady tweaked out in front of the ATM machine and she danced in a puddle of her own piss. By the time the cops showed up, she was starting to take her clothes off. The 2 teenage girls that were with her were using this distraction to fill their backpacks with makeup. After they were all taken away, I had to clean up the urine and clean off the ATM. One of the craziest things was at an airport. Girls that were in my flight decided to get drunk at the bar and then proceeded to hijack one of those vehicles they used to transport elderly sick people between their flights and run over some guy. They got arrested and were sobbing hysterically they were sorry and to please let them go. A homeless woman walking around a theater where a ballet performance by kids was about to start. She had the front of her sweatpants low enough to see most of her pubic hair and to the beginning of you know what. No one made an effort to escort her away from the children who were with their parents. Not even the police officer who was there. Saw a random guy walking to his car right out front of my job. I work in an office complex with a bat in his hand. He was looking around behind him. Then, when he saw me, he sat in his car with the door open, 1 foot out. I live and work in a nice, very non-violent area. It unnerved me so bad I noped out and drove right home. In my anatomy class we had to bisect the pelvis. When I looked across the room at 40 cadavers with saws sticking halfway through their groin, and multiple students standing on the table to get the leverage necessary to make it through the bone. One wearing a smock that was covered in bowel contents, and a guy in his 60s wearing a bucket hat, cocky trench coat and sandals, nothing else. At 1 p.m. on a hot summer's day, jerking off on the bus. A guy in his 20s wearing just a pair of jeans, around 3 p.m., yelling incoherently, randomly cutting into his groin with a shaving blade, on side of a major road. I lived in the Caribbean, waiting outside of the doctor's office, an elderly lady sitting next to me on the bench. Flies are buzzing all around us. I looked at her and winked and said, "Who's got the sandwich in their bag?" She looked sheepish, down at her bag, and pulled out a fucking sandwich. -1. And so a guy zooming down a hill on a skateboard, but he was laying on his stomach on the board with his legs out straight behind him and arms outstretched, so he's doing the Superman flight pose. He zoomed around a corner and out of sight. I live abroad in China. I love exploring new places, trying new things. But almost every day I see a child, even sometimes adult, pissing or shitting on the sidewalk. They'll clean it up. I never seen actual waste anywhere. But when you gotta go, I guess. In Paris at a metro stop, a 50-something-years-old couple with their hands down each other's pants and lots of rustling about going on. I was an escort for my son's school's 9th grade trip abroad. The kids certainly noticed, but no one said a word then or later to me. Guy with his hand down the back of his lady's pants in the line at a gas station full of people. He was buried in there up to his elbow and was working his fingers back and forth. I don't like being forced into people kinks without consent. It was fucking disgusting. Saw a monkey wearing glasses riding a pig with spats of color all over him. Normal-sized pig, not a mini pig. This happened in Vilnius. Maybe for someone from Nick this is common. But trust me, in a Slavic country it's really unusual. Slavs will get what I mean. My wife and I were at a bus stop in Las Vegas and saw a woman popping a zit on the back of her husband's neck. She apparently didn't succeed, so she called her daughter over to give it a go. I have a picture on my phone, but I don't see a way to post it. One time when I was in middle school, there was this super awkward couple. They would sit next to each other on a bench in gym class with a blanket over both of their laps. In the middle of summer. I knew what the hell was happening. One of my male clients got breasts and decided to open his shirt and show them without warning. Then a week later showed up in his dress, shoes, purse, and name change. He said he knew I would not judge him. I took that as a huge compliment. Many years ago, a man in my city committed suicide by bringing a hammer with him to the zoo, smashing the glass of the Gaboon Viper exhibit, and letting the snake bite him several times. Didn't see it personally but saw the aftermath. I watched a woman in the middle of the food court at the mall pull her skirt down, pee on the floor and just walk away. I'm not even kidding. Mall security did track her down and I'm sure she got arrested. But what in the world? I was on a train, waiting for me to reach my goal. I witnessed a young woman open her purse, remove a piece of watermelon, bite into it, dripping all over the place, and then replace it inside, without any packaging of any kind. I was on a bus once, and I saw a woman grab her child and literally suck the snort out of the child's nose. I started to gag when I realized that she didn't spit it out and had to get off at the next stop and walk a while. A woman at the park got sprayed point blank in the face by a skunk. She instantly fell to her knees, vomited twice, and then passed out. No one dared get close enough to see if she was okay. I hope she was. Sin was not the sharpest tool in the shed. He was convinced he could have unprotected sex with any women as his current girlfriend was pregnant, so there was no risk he could get another girl pregnant. A kid on a field trip stood close to the lion enclosure. Lion promptly turned around and urinated all over him. Whole class started gagging, and the teacher was freaking out, not knowing what to do. I was at a yard sale with my family and this older guy was looking around. He suddenly shouted to his wife that he needs to go home to take a dump in the toilet. Everyone stopped and stared at him. On Skid Row in LA, I saw a pimp getting blown in and just held up a towel and mad dogged whoever looked at. Was a really weird thing to see before, kinda, but the two young men who walked around downtown with just blankets over them comes to mind. I think they were hungover, looking for food and not giving a damn. That was pretty funny. I noticed a guy walking into our train, fully nude, carrying a suitcase. His reactions were normal. He appeared worried and kept his head buried in his phone till I had to leave. When I was 5, I visited my aunt in Los Angeles. It was the first time I ever saw a homeless person. I remember him because he was in an intense argument with a palm tree. This couple having sex in a gas station parking lot. They weren't in a car or anything, just straight up in the middle of the parking lot, bare-ass naked, going at it. I once saw a witch doing a seance in public. Full witch gown, staff, crazy hair. I'd think it was a joke, but it was downtown Santa Cruz. So it was probably legit. You know those sticks that dog walkers use to throw the tennis ball further? I saw a guy just throw the whole thing, with a ball attached. Dude did it twice. A guy sitting on a bench waiting for a bus with a woman stocking over his head. I always wondered if he was on his way to the bank to rob it. A guy just urinated on a public park, just standing face back behind a tree, and just let his things shower on the side of the tree. I saw a woman sitting on a public bench cutting nose hair with nail scissors. Never seen that before. Looked dangerous AF too. Someone taking a poo on the hard shoulder of the M5 literally. Not even on the grass verge, just behind the boot of their car. A woman stood and the tram stopped stroking a live pigeon's head, while it sat quite happily inside one of those big Doritos bags. Saw a dude sitting at a bus stop, deep-throating milk bottles. Likely not the strangest thing I've seen, but the most recent. Dead meth head dude lying in the grass in the park, totally naked. I was freaked the hell out. Obviously, I called the cops. Once saw someone walking a pet chicken on a leash at the park. A clucking good time for everyone involved. A teenage girl at a farm who apparently lost some sort of bet and made out with a billy goat for 60 seconds.